Welcome to the Sisters-in-Laws podcast, a faith-based podcast that spotlights Black women that replace silence with storytelling around pregnancy and infant loss and infertility. Black women experience miscarriage and stillbirth 4 to 5 times more likely than white women in the United States, according to the CDC and NIH. Whether you've experienced a miscarriage, infant loss, or stillbirth, are trying to conceive, or have an infertility diagnosis, you will learn about resources and strategies to heal, gain clarity, peace, and hope, and find an empowering path forward after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. Freeman, and you'll hear me interview other sisters-in-laws from around the world who have healed from such a painful and traumatic experience by sharing their testimonies and stories to inspire and help others turn their pain into their purpose. Storytelling is powerful. Storytelling is activism. Storytelling is healing. Now let's get started. Hello. Welcome to the Sisters-in-Laws podcast. It's your girl, Erica Michelle, back with another solo episode. And if you see the title, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see we got a new setup back here. And I am excited to share all things Sisters-in-Laws, our 7 years of podcasting. And I got a book deal, y'all. So if this is something you want to hear, stay tuned. Continue to listen. All right. So August 2nd, 2017, I hit play or publish to my first podcast episode. Back then it was called the Erica M. McAfee podcast. Obviously, I've had a name change. I've had a divorce, had a name change. A lot of different things has happened. I will link all of the episodes that I've done over the last 6 years of anniversary episodes, so you can listen to them and hear them and really understand the breadth and the depth of the journey it is here. I am recording this podcast currently on Sunday, July 21st, and just got the breaking news that our current president, Joe Biden, has dropped out of the race. So bear with me as I go through this script, and I'm kind of going off the cuff about my journey to getting here, because it's going through the back of my mind of, how did we get here? And our democracy has already been in question, but now it's like, what are we doing? And where do we go from here? So that's where we are. And that's where I am in my mind right now. So bear with me, guys. Stay with me here as I take you on this journey. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can tell that I moved. I'm in a new location in the DMV, not in Virginia anymore. I'm in Maryland. Shout out to the folks in gorgeous Prince George's. That's where I am. I'm excited to be here. And I'm excited to just bring to you all the updates of Sisters-in-Law. So as I mentioned, we started back in 2017 in August, and we've been publishing an episode every week since then. These last couple years have slowed down a bit. I've gone back to school. I got a master's degree in maternal child health, and I have really focused my time on not only building out a lot of our grief services and programs and courses, but really doing a lot of consulting work and performing webinars and speaking to a lot of nonprofits and organizations across the country about perinatal loss and bereavement. And I have been wanting to branch off. If you go back and listen to my 2018 episode, I may insert a clip here so that you can hear me say this, that I wanted to get a actual book deal. And I put it out there. I may have said it again in 2021 or 2020 or 2021. And here we are in 2024, and I cannot be so over the moon, so happy, so proud, and so um, ecstatic about being intentional, but also doing the work. So here we are 7 years later. If you all are numerology people like me, seven means completion. And it's something that when I came into 2024, thinking about where do I want Sisters in Loss podcast to go, as well as the platform to go? What is the vision and the mission of where we're going to go for this year? And, does seven mean completion, meaning completion of this podcast? Like, did I want to continue on telling these stories? And overall, this year, there have been a lot of replays and throwbacks and rewinds of episodes, just because I wanted to give myself the time to not only for have new listeners listen to some of the old episodes, which are amazing episodes prior to being on a video format, but also allows an opportunity to breathe new air into the podcast and do something different. And for me, that's always been writing a book. Writing a book based on the storytelling here, based on the healing journeys that a lot of you have experienced, that have shared stories on this podcast, and really what it looks like to be in community of women who are part of this sorority of sisterhood that we didn't want to be a part of. One of my last guest interviews, she called it the underground sisterhood. Essentially, that's what it is. And how do we heal together in this community? And what does healing look like moving forward? So I came into end of 2023. Well, let me back you all the way up, because obviously I'm kind of sharing this live, and I'm going unscripted about this. I didn't even write a script when I started to press record on this. I had a little bit of downtime and I said, I'm just going to speak from the heart. So back in 2017, when I started the podcast, 2018, the podcast rebranded, went from Erica M. McAfee podcast to Sisters in Loss podcast. Back in 2019, we did a complete rebrand where we changed the logo. 2020 came around, pandemic came around, we launched courses where we did birth, bereavement, and postpartum. And then we did a full spectrum course in 2020 to 2021. I got divorced officially on paper in 2021, although I had been separated for a little bit of time. I changed my name officially back in 2023. And then here we are in 2024. So that kind of gives you a trajectory of the podcast. But also back in 2018, when I changed the name to Sisters in Loss, I considered writing a book and really talking about my own personal story and journey and what that looked like, especially as I was starting to interview more people as they were sharing their stories and journey. I ended up taking a course back then. I took a course in 2018. It was more of a self-publishing course. Decided not to self-publish because I wanted to traditionally publish. I ended up taking a actual traditionally published course in 2020 or 2021. I don't remember the years. That was another good course that got me on the track. Ended up querying a bunch of agents. At that time, agents weren't really buzzing on my idea. So then at the end of 2023, there was another course that I was like, all right, this is my last opportunity, Erica. If you're not going to, take what you learned in this course and apply it, I know that you want to do this work. Writing is not a strength. If you all know, my background's in engineering. So it's like, girl, you really want to be a published author. You should be learning from the best of the best, someone who's actually done this, someone who is a New York Times bestseller. So essentially that's what I did. Found this course, signed up, immediately paid for it. Top of the year, the first 7-8 weeks of the year, actually went through weekly and took this course, wrote down exactly, did all the homework, actually got honed down on my idea, my mission, my vision, my goal for the book, outlined the book, completely wrote my book proposal. And then fast forward till about beginning of June, a publisher reached out to me and, liked the work that I was doing We had a call about an hour, talked about my idea, my goal, my vision. I sent them my proposal. They loved my proposal. We hopped on another call. They submitted my proposal to their publishing team. And it ended up, a few weeks later, getting a book offer, getting a book deal, which is not the normal process of actually developing and getting a book. Typically, for the traditionally published process, you normally write your book proposal, you query a bunch of agents, you send them your book proposal, and then they will send your book proposal to different editors at different houses across the spectrum. Typically, you want to get a top 5 publisher, and your top 5 publisher will then either your book goes to auction, where multiple publishers are bidding on your book to get the highest advance and royalties and things, or you find one publisher, your one publisher wants your book, and then they give you advance based off of that. So that's typically the typical route that traditional publishing goes. For me, since I am going in this non-traditional route, a publisher reached out to me, they accepted me. So what I did in my case was actually go back and, I have negotiating skills for corporate. So I went back and renegotiated some things, a part of the contract. And then I went and asked around to other folks who I know have been traditionally published, especially in the top 5 publisher, what their terms and conditions were, and just asked around and see people, would be willing to talk to me and pay me, and I pay for their time to really understand, could I negotiate this by myself, or did I just need to go ahead and query an agent? And what ended up happening is I actually went back and queried some agents. So I went back, queried probably about 5 or 6 different agents. A couple agents weren't taking any more queries for the year. The book publishing world typically closes down for around the summertime, and they'll open back up, towards the end of the summer, going into the, fall, winter season. So ended up getting on the phone call with a couple agents, found an agent that I really loved and wanted to, be a part of. And I ended up signing with an agent who really focuses on health and wellness. And it actually is at the agency of one of my favorite authors, which is mind blowing when I think about it. When and I'll share more in detail as we go along the process. Obviously, I think I'm going to share some solo episodes. They have been extremely helpful. Is I've heard a couple solo episodes of people who've navigated through the book publishing process, and I want to do the same thing here on Sisters-in-Law. So bear with me as I get further into this process, and I will share more details about, what it looks like to actually sign with the literary agent. What does that look like? How are they helping you? What my book is about? More details about all that. Obviously, I'm not going to share that in this episode. This is just an update on Sisters-in-Law, which is kind of an update on Erica, but So I ended up signing with the agent, and right now we're in the negotiation process. So I do have an actual book deal, which is crazy to think about. Book deal, advance, royalties, all of the things. And I am finalizing my negotiations with this contract, which typically takes a while, as you can imagine. And then we're moving forward with writing this book. So as of right now, my book is slated to come out in spring of 2026. If that changes, obviously I'll tell you. And I'm goo gobs happy, like goo gobs ecstatic that this all came about the way it came about, and it was in God's timing, right? I've been trying to think about traditional publishing. I've been wanting to traditional publish for years. I just had not come about the way it should have. And at the time, it just probably wasn't the right time. I was going through lots of changes in my personal life. And I feel like you need to have clarity not only in your mind, but in your spirit and your soul. And you have to have peace about what you're going through. And for me to even consider writing a book on grief and loss and healing, I needed to be at a different place in my own personal healing journey. so that I'll be able to share what does that look like? How do you get out of those dark spaces? And if you get back into those dark spaces, how do you continue to find the light? And I had to go through some things in order to be able to get to this place where I'm able to not only write a proposal, with outlines and chapters on what does that look like, but really share the state of Black maternal health, reproductive justice, rights and justice, and how infant and maternal mortality plays a role in that, but also how it shows up for our maternal mental health when it comes to our grief, when it comes to experience and loss, and when it comes to the journey towards healing. So I am honored that I get the opportunity to share our stories in many different ways. So excited to use Sisters in Loss platform, this medium, as a tool to not only amplify the voices of the women who have not been heard, but also amplify the voices of the women who shared on this podcast thus far, and the women who we're going to share in the future, because obviously we're going to continue on. This 7 does not mean completion. It means of this podcast, but 7 does mean completion of this journey. We are looking forward to the new beginnings in 2025, and what does that look like for Sisters in Loss, but definitely completion of where we are, that we've come around 7 full years of doing something consistently every day, and that this has evolved and changed and transformed, and it will continue to evolve and change and transform. So what is on the horizon for Sisters in Loss outside of a book? Outside of this book deal, I'll talk a lot more about the book deal at a future date. I'm going to go more in detail about what the book is about and where I may need your help with. But Sisters in Loss is coming back. Conferences are coming back. More training is coming back. More webinars are coming back in person. I think we all needed a collective breather. And if you have seen me take a step back, I've been traveling more, I've been pouring into myself more. I needed it. I needed the time to really pour back into myself. And the beauty of having so many years of content is that I can repurpose and reuse the content. And it still is evergreen, and shows. It's the reason why I love the podcast that I do, because it is an evergreen podcast. I don't focus on topics that are typically specific to the time of what's happening. It's all evergreen and it's ongoing. So I can really post a podcast any time of the year and it still will be applicable, because it's someone sharing their story. Is not specific of what actually has happened that year. Obviously, a lot has happened over the last really 2 years, obviously, since Roe versus Wade has been overturned, and it's up to the states to make decisions on people's reproductive rights and justice. And we're in a turmoil when it comes to who our next president is going to be. As I told you at the top of the podcast, when I'm recording this, Joe Biden just announced that he is stepping down. So now at the Democratic National Convention in a couple of weeks, delegates will have to get up and vote on a new nominee. And although I know Biden's going to endorse Kamala, I know that as as someone who is Democratic, that we have to make sure that we are calling our representatives, especially those representatives who say they are fighting for reproductive rights and justice and maternal health issues, that they are on the ballot as well, right? A lot of these senators, a lot of our representatives are also up for re-election in November. And it is up to us. I think I say this every time I do a solo episode. It is up to us to vote. So we need to be calling these delegates and telling these people, hey, we want so-and-so to be nominated based off of their work around reproductive rights and justice and maternal health initiatives, and making sure we pass the Omnibus Act. And how do we get that signed into law, especially since Biden is stepping down, and we get that signed into law before he leaves office? Like, what other policies is he going to pass what executive orders is he going to write so that we can make sure that our voices are heard? So that is my call to action, really, at the end of this. It's mainly because it's fresh on my mind, it's fresh on my heart, and it's happening real time. Obviously, I'm going to post this real time for you all as a representative of the anniversary, and this is wonderful news that I have. But I'm kind of fired up. I am a little frustrated, a little bit mad, a little scared about where we're going, but I'm hopeful in us. I'm hopeful in not only us as voting members, but I'm hopeful in Black women. As we always say today, yeah, we don't need to, but we have to, because ultimately our bodies, the bodies of our babies, the bodies of our future babies, of our grandkids, our great grandkids, the generations behind us that are coming behind us, depends on it. It depends on us getting out in November and voting. And today, as you're listening to this, to make calls to your elected officials to tell them who you want the nominee to be on the Democratic side. So when delegates get into the DNC, they know exactly who to nominate. All right? Because what's going to happen is they're going to continue the voting process until they get a nominee. Whoever gets all the votes, they still have to get over 3,000 votes. Delegates have to get, the nominee has to get all these votes in order to be the Democratic nominee, right? Let's breathe, because there's a lot going on. And our votes really depend on it, really depends on it. Our life literally is on the line. And I want to make sure that that it's not a scary thing, but it is a serious thing, and that we know how, how this election is going to impact generations. We say that every time, but really, this one is. You saw how these last two went. This one definitely is going to impact generations based off of all that's coming down the pipeline from the other side and Project 2025 and all of the rights that they're trying to strip away from us and get back to a more white society. And we don't want that. You don't want it either. So go and vote. Go and vote on November 5th, and definitely make those phone calls to your elected officials. I prefer calling them after hours, because then the voicemail has to pick up and they have to respond to it. Calling them during office hours is just going to get you on a endless loop of waiting. So call them after office hours and tell them how you feel. It's the only way we're going to get our voice heard in this election season. So something else that's coming up for Sisters in Loss outside of our grief support groups, we still have our weekly grief support group that is held every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with Postpartum Support International. To register for that group, you just need to go to postpartum.net or sistersinloss.com/PSI, and then you can register for our support group. And just drop in whenever you feel like it. It is a healing space. I love it because I come to it every Thursday, and I get refilled up in my cup about where I am and how am I navigating, how am I coping, how am I dealing with life stressors. And it helps us not only center and ground, but also helps us heal together. So join us every Thursday in our grief support group. It's called Black Moms in Loss, it's our partnership with Postpartum Support International. And you can join us at postpartum.net or sistersinloss.com/PSI. Some other things that are coming down the pipeline is a conference. We're going to have a 1.5-day conference in 2026. Excited about that. Look forward to that in October of 2026. So you'll see more about that. Or not 2026, October of 2025. So you'll see more about that and more webinars about really how do we navigate this landscape, and really talk more about policy work and get involved as a political advocate in your local community. I'm going to do a webinar about that here shortly, right before the election. So I want to make sure that you all know how to call these people, how to make sure that we stomping on people's doors and we're writing them and we're showing up in social media spaces to let them know that they cannot strip our rights. They can't take them away and that we're not going to allow it. Like we're here, we're standing strong, we're standing together, and we want to make sure that we're saving the lives of Black moms and babies. Lastly, Sisters in Loss is excited about all of the continued partnerships with the organization, not only on the business side, but also on the foundation side. So you should see a lot more come out around Sisters in Loss Foundation. If you're not following us over there, go follow us now, Sisters in Loss Foundation. This is our 501c3 arm of Sisters in Loss, where we give back, and a lot of the services that we offer, providing doula services for people, paying for funerals, paying for memorials, and really what it looks like as people navigate their healing journey. So join us at Sisters in Loss Foundation. I'm excited about all the philanthropy and giving back and opportunities through our 501c arm that we are launching and being a part of in this next year. Obviously 2024, it's been a soft launch. 2025, we're going to launch it fully. And I'll talk more about who the board is and some of the programs that we're going to be offering through our foundational arm. So I'm excited about not only navigating Sisters in Loss business, which is the podcast, but also the foundational aspect of it as well. Personally, I've just been traveling a lot and enjoying my summer so far. I am excited about the travels that I have in the next few months, and I am just looking forward to what it means to be an author and a published author with a top 10 publisher, and what it looks like to not only write this book, because that's probably the hard labor, but also market, develop, and put this book out there. This is my new baby, and I'm looking forward to all that entails. It is going to be a big journey for me, and I'm excited to bring you along. If you all are interested, that we talk about what does that look like, what do milestones look like as I write, as I develop, as I move forward through the process. And I'm looking forward to more meetups in the DMV. I think I'm going to do a quarterly meetup, not only for our doulas, but as a community as a whole. That's been fun to do. We had one recently back in May and end of April, and we're going to have another one here in August. I'm going to have one in August. I'm going to have one in October. So you should have at least 2 more meetups in the DMV area for the year. And then we'll talk about what it looks like for 2025. So that is all of my rambling for today. Go vote. Go vote and call your delegates, because that is what's on my mind and my heart, especially with this announcement today. And I got a book deal, y'all. To God be the glory for all of the amazing things that he has done. I hope that my journey to healing, my journey of turning my pain into purpose is not in vain, that you see yourself in me, and that I see myself in a lot of the work that you all do, and that you continue not only to hone the gift that God has given you, that idea that is in your heart, but you don't give up on it, that you stay tenacious, that you stay resilient, and that you know that God has a bigger purpose on the other side. So I love you all for sticking through to the end. If you are watching me on YouTube, girl, hey girl, I know I got the fly head wrap on with these bomb earrings. And look at my juju hats in the background. Oh. I love you all. Thank you for being in community with me. And I can't wait to continue to update with you about all that's happening with Sisters in Loss, but definitely about this book journey. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening to today's episode. For show notes, go to sistersinloss.com to stay connected with us and join the Sisters in Loss community. and receive my weekly newsletter, please go to sistersinloss.com/newsletter. That is sistersinloss.com/newsletter. Please rate and review this episode, and I will talk to you next week.